Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate the fact that you attend this session. I just want to point out to you that with geometrical construction, it is construction. In other words, it tells you you have to make use of your compass and you have to make use of your ruler and your t-square. So this is now actually the first portion that we will start using more frequently, our compasses, and then also the t-squares, the set squares that you are supposed to have. The geometrical construction will consist of two parts. This is the first part, and this part will be forming part of paper 2, not paper 1. So therefore it's predominantly focused on paper 2. Okay, let's quickly have a look on the first point, and that is when you have to bisect a line. Now what the word bisecting means tells you that you have to go find the middle point of that line. Right, so the exam paper will point out to you line segment AB, and you have to, by means of construction, that's very important to read this part, by means of construction, you have to bisect the line, you have to divide the line, in other words, into two equal parts. Now of course I can't just pick a point and say this will be the halfway mark, or I can't just measure and find the halfway mark of 70 and say that's 35 and that's going to be the point, because the word by means of construction tells you that you have to do construction accordingly. Alright, let's quickly have a look on what we will do. Normally we will take an arc and open up our compass and strike an arc from the end point of this line. From point A, I will strike a line towards an arc on this part over here. Now without resetting my compass, keep it on the same portion, keep it on the same size, I will put the needle point at B and strike an arc on the other side. So there we go, and we've created these 2 points now, so we can call it C and D. And now if we use this intersection point on that side, remember that this intersection point, this arc, is exactly the same distance from A towards the arc as what B towards the arc is, since I haven't changed my dimensioning on my compass. So therefore that's exactly in the middle. So if I join the intersection points with each other by means of a line, I will get the bisecting point by means of that. Alright, so that is showing to you the way in which you can basically draw this portion of a bisecting of a line. So that's the third step. Now with the bisecting of an angle, tells you, the examiner is giving you an angle and it's telling you, listen here, this one is 39 degrees. I'm not sure what the halfway mark is. Again, I can use my protractor, and I can place my protractor on there and I can get the degrees, and I get the halfway of that by means of calculation, and then find the midpoint of this angle. But the examiner is asking by means of construction. So I have to use my compass and I have to construct a halfway of this angle itself. Now first of what you will do is you open up your compass on a comfortable size. You will place the needle point at A and you strike an arc on that it includes BA and BC towards D and E. Right, so once you've got that point, you can either keep your compass the same size or you can extend it a little bit longer. The most important part is when I do the distance from E outwards, I should also use the same distance from D outwards. So what I normally say is keep it the same distance as what it is up to so far. Put the needle point at E and strike an arc on that size, and put the needle point on D and strike an arc, and where those two arcs intersect with each other, from out B through that intersection point, I will be able to say that will be the bisecting of this angle. Can you see the line quality I'm talking about? That was given. That could have been dark lines in print, or your end result. The examiner is asking for the end result, so the end result should be dark. The way to get to the end result is a construction line. So it's going to be type C lines, all the green lines. So make sure that you are familiar with the quality of line qualities and those type of things, so that you can do that accordingly. Alright, now the next option I want to point out to you is the construction of a 60-degree angle from a point on a line. In other words, I have to, not by using my 60-degree set square, not by using a protractor and measure 60 degrees, I have to, by means of construction, and construct an angle of 60 degrees. Alright, so what will I do now in terms of that? So first of all, I put my needle point at A and I strike an arc from A towards C. Alright, so off we go. That's the arc over there. right? And I call the intersection point on B, C, or A towards C, I will call that point D. Now without resetting, this is very important, you don't reset your compass, you keep it as what it is. You put the needle point at D, intersection point, and then from there on, you simply strike an arc with the same size of what you have done over here. Now if the size of the arc of A towards D is the same of the size of the arc from D towards E, it means that if you draw a line from A through point E onwards, that angle should be 60 degrees. So if the sizes are staying the same, it could give you an angle, it will give you an angle of 60 degrees in that regard. Alright, so that is what we do. Now we have done the bisecting of an angle, the previous exercise. So if we bisect this now, we can create, in other words, a 30 degree over here. Alright, so that is one method that you can bear in mind. If the examiner is asking for an angle of 30 degrees, you know how to get a 60 degree by keeping this distance as the same. But now you can use that intersection point at D and your intersection point at E, and you can simply get an arc over here and you can create yourself a 30 degree. You can even go further and say, if I know that this distance and this distance from D towards E is the same, that gives me 60 degrees, I can go and carry on and draw the arc even further and draw it with the same size of D towards E or A towards D and E, and draw another arc over here. Then I can get a 120 degree angle over here. And if I bisect that, that's 60, and that's 60 divided by 2 gives you 30, so 60 plus 30 gives you 90, so I will be able to get a 90 degree angle on this point over here. Should I bisect the second 60 degree? Let's quickly have a look at some angles. Construct a 30 degree angle. We set, so that's the same as what we have done up to so far. We set the compass at any angle, any size, at any size, which is comfortable. Strike the arc over there. Call this one D, call this one E that we're going to create without resetting my compass. Put the intersection point, the needle point at D at that intersection point, and strike the arc from there towards that point. That angle will be 60 degrees. So if I complete this part, that's 60 degrees. Can you see the line quality? It's not the end product yet. It's asking for 30 degrees. That's the question. So if I bisect this angle of 60 degree by striking an arc from D outwards and from E outwards to get the intersection point and join a line from A towards, well, if in this case the intersection point that I've created there, then that will be giving me 30 degrees, half of 60 degrees. So therefore we can now easily find the 30 degrees as well. Alright, now they're asking for a 90 degree. So we have done the 60 degree up to so far. That's going to be 60 degrees. I can carry on with that part. I can go for another portion. So that's going to be 60 plus 60 gives me 120 degrees. So now from out the point of E outwards and F outwards, and that those distances are the same the whole time, I can work from out A now, and then I can join it up to G, and that will give me the 90 degrees of which I was required. You can also now imagine if you take the 30 degrees which is over here and you subdivide this 30 degrees also to get the bisecting point of this angle over here towards A, then you can get 30 divided by 2, 15. So 60 plus 15 gives you 75. So I can also create myself a 75 degree angle in this case over here. Alright, so construction of a 45 degree angle, of course, will tell me if I have to find the 90 degrees, of which I've done and explained to you just now. There goes my 90 degrees. And I divide the 90 degrees into two parts, into equal parts. In other words, from out D outwards, strike an arc. You can imagine that this angle, this length should be a little bit longer now. And the same with this intersection point between E and F. And I can also, and call it H, I can also strike the arc from H towards this point. That will give me the intersection point, and from out A through J I will get the 45 degree line, which is 90 divided by 2. Alright, so we can play around with all different types of exercises, and that will eventually bring me up to the point where we can say I can solve my problems in terms of this. Now of course you can divide 45 by 2 again, Like I said, you can go 30, you can go 60 degrees, you can go 90 degrees, you can go 120 degrees. You can also go 75 degrees by bisecting all those other areas itself. Constructing an angle of 120 degrees from a point on the line itself, that's what we have done just now. So that's the 120 degrees, right? So, and that's basically then 120 degrees. It's 60 plus 60 in the process, right? So that is all the options I can have in this regard, right? Now constructing a 90 degree angle from a point outside the line. Up to so far, every time we were on the line. Now we're going to go outside the line. So in other words, I've got point A over here. It's not to say it's in the middle of these two, and I can't measure, and I can't just use my set squares pointing it downwards. I have to, by means of construction, I have to construct a point downwards, making sure that this distance will be the same. Alright, so what I will do is I put the needle point at A, set my compass comfortably sized, and then from there on strike an arc so I can get two significant intersection points on either side of the A towards B and A towards C. Right, so that's what we'll call D and E. Now, without resetting or keep it the same, it doesn't matter. I can use from out D, put the needle point at intersection point at D, and strike an arc further downwards to this bottom part, and also from E downwards with the same size as what it was. And then from out A, remember now this distance will be the same as that distance, and then of course if I go 90 degrees downwards, this distance and that distance is the same. So therefore, if I join A towards F, I will be able to find my 90 degree line from out to point outside, away from a BC in other words. Alright, so now we can also copy in this regard. Alright, how do we copy an angle? This angle of which is shown to you here is 48 degrees. Now the examiner is asking, take this 48 degree and copy this 48 degrees to this line as well. Exactly the same. Right, so what we're going to do is basically, we first of all take Y, the intersection point at Y as the intersection point, and put the needle point there and strike an arc, which will give you WE in that case. Alright, so there we go with that arc. Now, without resetting my compass, keep it the same size and go over to B and strike the same arc size on BC, and that will give me W on this bottom side over here. Right, now I can for the first time reset my compass. If I take my compass, remember, and put the needle point over there with the same size of this arc, it should give me 60 degrees. That's the exercise that we have done just now. But this one is 48 degrees, so we have to make it a bit smaller so it reaches that point. From the needle point up to E, intersection point, we can now strike the distance over there, take that same distance and transfer it towards W on this new line and strike the same arc over here as well. So that distance over there is exactly the same as the distance from W to E over there. And now I can simply just join from out B outwards horizontally, and also from B towards through the intersection point at E to find the 48 degrees. Alright, so what we have done is basically strike the arc, do it the same on this side, measure the distance and do it the same on this side over here and get that intersection point at that point. Alright, so that's basically what we can do. We can also divide a line into a given number of equal parts. So in other words, now they're asking me, this is line segment AB. Now this principle I'm going to explain to you just now will be used right through to grade 12 for many reasons. Alright, so just quickly have a look here. On this part over here, from out A, I will strike a line or make an acute line at any angle. It doesn't matter as long as it's acute line angle itself. Alright, so there's my line. Doesn't matter what this angle is, doesn't matter what the length of it is. You will see just now why I'm saying so. Now I can take my compass, and from out the intersection point at A, I can strike an arc. And without resetting, put that intersection point, the needle point at that intersection point, and strike another arc. At that intersection point, strike another arc. At that intersection point, strike another arc with the same size. Until I've got 5 increments, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now for this point, remember this is the line that needs to be divided into 5 equal parts. This is the same distance, so therefore that's equal, but it's not giving it to me on one segment AB. So what I would do now is basically I will join point 5 with point B, which is the end point, and I will place my ruler on the bottom of this part over here. Now if this line slides on this ruler, or this set square slide on this ruler, it will at all times basically run parallel to each other. So if I slide it towards the next point, which is that intersection point, and draw the line over up to that point, and keep my ruler stiff to the paper, slide my set square towards the next intersection point and draw the line, slide my section to the second intersection point and draw the line, and slide it back to the first intersection point and draw the line, I can say fine, that will be then for that line being divided into equal parts. Right, so first of all, any angle. Second, strike arcs the same size up to what is required, 5 points in other words. Take the last point to the last point and slide with your T-square and ruler parallel to those sides to each intersection point, and then join it with AB, and that will give you, of course, your 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 points that you need. And that's it. Alright, so that is basically another method of dividing a line into equal parts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the first part of geometrical construction, of questions that you might get in a question paper for question paper number 2. So I really trust that this helped you a lot, and also with the sliding of the set square, telling you how to manage and how to do your line quality and line work. So I'm hopeful that this will help you a lot in answering the questions in the coming test series and also the exam at the end of the year. I really thank you, and I hope that this will give you some clarity in terms of geometrical construction. Part 2 is following up. Thank you very much.